a practice that hopefully utilizes all of your muscle groups. We'll warm up for the first 5 minutes or so. We're now doing 3 walking meditations as a part of our warm-up, and we'll include a balance portion. Today we'll be doing a chair, a couple variations of chair, and then we'll make our way down to the mat, or if you would rather stay in a chair, you're also welcome to do that. We'll do a butterfly, a few bridges if we have time for that. So having said that, let's go ahead and start at the back of the mat, and I'm going to start with the blocks in my hand just to kind of demonstrate that you don't need them at the top. If you would need a little assistance perhaps folding and just getting your maybe your half lift done, or just hanging out in the first couple of forward folds that we have. If you need to do that, then maybe having the blocks in your hands might help you during our walking meditation. So I'm going to keep those at the back of the mat to hopefully help you help to demonstrate that. Usually they're at the top, so if you don't have any issues with that, go ahead and keep that where it is. Now at the back of the mat, when we arrive, we're just standing in our home base of mountain. And you can stand, not changing the quality of your breath or anything, just noticing that you're breathing, giving yourself a little time to arrive. Feet are about hips distance apart under the hips. You can have a gentle bend to the knees, especially if the legs are tight from any sort of springtime, almost summertime activity. So just give yourself a moment to arrive. In our home base of mountain, slight bend to the knees if you need. We're just using this home base in our first iteration, but as you return to mountain, we'll get a little longer in the legs, a little taller, a little stronger. Now we'll begin by focusing more on the breath. Let's go ahead and bring our left palm to rest on the chest, right palm under the belly. Give yourself a moment to breathe with more focus on the inhale. Breathe as much as you can all the way to the top of that inhale. Maybe the hand on the chest lifts. A brief pause before you slowly start to breathe through the nose, exhaling. And fully exhaled at the bottom, we're going to gently press in that belly hand to remind yourself to engage the core. Give yourself a few breath cycles here. An inhale, a pause, an exhale, another pause. And as the breath rate slows down, we'll start to finish by bringing some space to the back of the throat, bringing in the yogic breath, the sound of the ocean, the back of the throat, on both the inhales and the exhales. Then we can bring our hands to rest at our side, nice and relaxed. With the next inhale, go ahead and press down into the feet, lengthen through the legs, feel energy lifting from the mat, up the legs, up the spine, through to the crown of the head and beyond. The top of the inhale, briefly pause, and then exhale through the nose. Feel that energy reverse order down, back towards the feet, into the mat, and press in with the feet, engaging the core. With the next inhale, we'll start to tip our center of gravity towards the toes. And at the top of that inhale, see if you can be at the very tip edge of the toes without falling over. And then use the next breath. Slowly bring the center of gravity at the soles of the feet towards the heels. Fully exhaled here, find that tipping point edge as well. And then use the next couple of breath cycles just to find that heel to toe alignment as the center travels at the soles of your feet. Keeping the breath in the nose. And then we'll meet somewhere at center, somewhere above the arches, near to the heels. Go ahead and give yourself a little bounce if you'd like. Shift the feet if you need to. And reset the mountain. Inhaling nice and tall. Keep the bend to the knees if you need. With that energy coming all the way up through the crown of the head. Go ahead and exhale over to the right edge of your feet. Your body is one long stick, imagine. Inhale back to the center. And then exhale, roll the center of gravity at the soles of the feet towards the left side of your feet. Fully exhaled here. You can inhale to center and exhale to either side for a 3-part breath. Or you could just use an inhale to breathe to one side and an exhale to breathe to the other. You can use a 2-part breath as well. Whatever works for you. And find that left to right center of gravity traveling, and then we'll meet back at center once more, coming back into our home base of mountain. You can do anything you need to release from that last gentle pose. Resetting our mountain once more. Let's see if we can lengthen through the legs just a little more. And we're going to imagine once more that energy lifting from the feet, through the legs, up the spine, and to the crown of the head. Imagine a string pulling you up towards the ceiling. And all we're going to do next is start making small circles at the ankles with a long body. And we're going in one direction, slowly making the circles larger and larger until we can find the perimeter of our feet. The soles of the feet, one big circle, and once that edge has been found, go ahead and tighten in the circles. Come on back. Find that center at the top of the ankles near to the heels once more. We'll reset the mountain. These are subtle moves, but hopefully just giving you an idea of how the body's center and what the feet are feeling like, the body as we move on up these major joint areas. We'll go ahead. Coming back into our mountain once more, we're inhaling, lengthening all the way upwards, feeling that pull at the crown of the head. And this time make those small, same circles, but in the opposite direction. At the ankles, you're essentially making these small circles, widening them to larger circles, so you can eventually find the perimeter of the feet. And once that edge is found, and it might be a little choppier on this side, go ahead and tighten in those circles. We'll return back to that center right above the ankles, near to the heels once more, sort of like water going down a drain. And coming back in, go ahead and bounce gently in the knees, at the ankles. You just give yourself a little movement. Lift the toes, lift the heels. Now we're going to give ourselves a little more movement in the ankles. We're going to start to shift our weight from left to right. You can lift the foot, but eventually all we're going to do is widen just a little bit at the toes, pivot them out just slightly. And as we're shifting more and more of the weight, we're going to start to move, maybe at about a second delay, the top portion of our torso. But as more of our torso moves to one side, be sure to lift the toes so we don't torque out the knees. We're pivoting on the heels as we gain more and more momentum. Arms are not really actively moving, more so than they're just kind of swaying, swerving from the momentum that we're using at the top of the shoulders and the bottom portion of our body. And if you really get that nice twist in, you might have arms just tapping gently at the sides. If it's really high up there, you might just have them coming up a little higher on the rib cage. And then we'll let that energy sort of peter off and return back to center once more. So hopefully we just had a little more lubrication in the ankles and the hips, not so much in the knees, but then in the shoulders maybe. Now pivoting back in the toes, we now have a heel to toe alignment. And give yourself that nice internal rotation of the thighs. Feel as if you're pressing inward at the arches, especially at that big pad under the toes, under the big toe. Then we're going to press into those feet and feel maybe a little longer in the legs, gently tucking under the tailbone. Now we're moving on up towards the shoulders. And with the shoulders, we're going to relax everything in our arms, palms facing forward. And hopefully we have our shoulders over our hips somewhat, over our knees, over our ankles. And at this point, we're just going to inhale. Shoulders come right up, vertically upwards as high as you can. And then on the exhale, let's roll them back and just let them melt down. See if you can tuck in the shoulder points in the mid-back if you're able to. Inhaling, the shoulders come up. Exhale, roll them back and down. And we're doing a total of 4 breath cycles here. Inhaling the shoulders up. Exhaling the shoulders back and down. Engage the core at the bottom of the exhale. One last breath cycle for me. And then we'll have a second set. This time, after we inhale the shoulders up, we're going to roll them forward and down, still tucking in those wingtips at the bottom of the exhale. Make sure the core is engaged. Inhale, shoulders come up. Exhale, roll them forward and down. One last one. Inhaling up. Exhale, roll them back and down. Then after that, you can go ahead and shake out your hands, lift the feet. If you have a tendency to grip at the mat, lifting the feet is a really nice counter move just to release from that very last pose. And then we'll go ahead and come back to our mountain just a little longer, a little taller. And here we'll start our first folds, reaching downward with our fingers. Inhale, extend the arms upwards, and at the top, slightly up with the chest. And then exhale, we're going to go ahead and hinge at the hips, long back. And you can start by bringing the tail back just slightly, so you can hinge at the hips and float the back downward. You can walk the hands down if you need, or just let the back float. Slowly unfolding. It's our first fold, and you might be sort of in a half lift position, kind of like I am. If you've done a lot of work and you're kind of tight in the hips, it may just take a little while to unwind. So give yourself those nice long breath cycles to help release through the back, through the legs. And you're keeping that center of gravity from the hips all the way down to the ankles, and the knees can be slightly bent. Can be very bent if you're finding difficulty just hinging it all at the hips. Just give yourself some time. You may need to support the upper body with the forearms on the thighs. You might be able to just dangle there and allow gravity to help you release. You might have your hands on the feet, the shins, the ankles, maybe even the mats, maybe the palms to the mat even. But as we stay in our first lengthy forward fold, you can focus on just releasing anything that's not needed to hold this pose. You can imagine from the hips to the heels, we want that good solid support. But perhaps are you pressing into the toes? You may need to release from that. Are you holding onto your head? Maybe a gentle no movement with the head and a yes movement. Maybe just letting the head dangle in circles. Bobble is the word I'm looking for. And just let it, like a pendulum, just sit.
but see if you can release. Don't hold on to the head with the neck. And as we're here for about 5 breath cycles, if you have 1 or 2 more breath cycles left, you can always bend one knee, lengthen that leg, and alternately bend the other knee and lengthen that leg. See if you can get just a little longer in the legs. Then as we come up, we're going to do this with a slow roll up and an inhale. Engaging the core, we can press into our feet, firm up the legs, and start to even help to walk the torso up if we need. But we're coming up 1 vertebra at a time, feeling the feet pressing down as we come all the way back up. And the last thing to stack on the neck is the head, palms facing forward. Give yourself a moment for the blood to rush back to the head. We'll fold one more time. Lengthening the arms downwards, reaching, lengthening through the legs, maybe a little longer, a little taller in our mountain. Let's go ahead and inhale the arms, still reaching, all the way up towards the ceiling. And on the exhale, engage the core, bend the knees if you need, stick the tailbone back and hinge at the hips. Nice long back. You can always walk the hands down or let it float. Let your body float on down to our second fold. It's not as long as our first one. Here, we're going to be about 3 breath cycles, but we're still noticing if we're holding on to the upper body in any way. Try to keep the arms relaxed. Try to let go of any activation in the neck of the head. You can gently move the head no, and yes, once more. And then just let gravity sort of let it dangle in a pendulum like plumb line. And you can also swivel the hips in a horizontal plane from left to right, if that helps as well. And as you're here for just maybe another breath cycle or 2, focus on just releasing through the upper body. See where your gaze is. You should be looking somewhere either at your toes or maybe between your heels. Maybe you can lengthen just a little more through the legs. And with our second return to mountain, you can come up with a slow inhale and a slow curl back up once more, or with a straight back. But either way, we engage the core, we step into the feet, firming up the thighs, and inhale. Hands come all the way up. And at the top, if you can bring the hands, palms together, we can bring hands down heart center. And from here, we'll start our walking meditation. Inhaling, start to bring standing weight to the left leg. And once you find that left leg center, see if you can lift the right heel. You should still feel that center there so that you can lift the entire right foot and exhale the ball of foot or the midfoot, ball of foot, and toes all the way down. Finding standing weight on that right leg, you can lift the left foot and bring that heel, midfoot, toes down. If you have plantar fasciitis, if you have sensitive heel, you can always bring the midfoot down. We're doing this pretty slowly, so hopefully it's just a nice little roll. And if you feel wobbly, you can always press into the palms. Make sure your core is engaged. If you want to challenge yourself, lift the foot higher. Stay suspended on with one leg up for a little longer. But if this is tough enough to move slowly, just lift the foot enough to step forward. And at the top of the mat, we'll meet in mountain, looking down at the fingertips, press into the palms. Inhale, watch the fingertips rise. And at the top, we'll separate the palms and exhale. Engage the core, come on down for a third fold, float or just walk the hands down, whatever you need. But come on down for the other fold. Oh, I forgot the blocks, sorry about that. But if you have the blocks here, you would hold on to them if you needed that extra space to meet the mat. Otherwise, you can come into your half lift with an inhale by pressing into wherever your hands are. And then exhale back down towards the fold by simply bringing the chest to towards the thighs. And then you can hopefully bring your hands to the blocks, or if the blocks are in your hands, go ahead and just set them down. And we're bringing one foot back and then the other foot, or we're taking many steps back with the feet, and then bring up the shoulders over the wrists with the inhale. And here we're bringing down the shins, putting the tops of the ankles there, and give yourself some space. Make sure that your shoulders are somewhat over the wrists. If they're a little too far forward, you can lift up the knees and slide the body back a little bit, or you can just walk the hands forward just slightly, whichever works for you. Engage your core. Make sure the belly button is sticking to the spine, and you can feel hopefully the support of the tops of the ankles and the shins on the lower body weight, while the upper body is being supported by strong extended arms with shoulders protracting away from the spine. We're here for about 5 breath cycles. Inhaling, feel that diagonal energy running from the shins all the way up to the crown of the head. On the exhale, just root down a little more in the hands, palms, and all the way up through to the fingertips, supporting the weight. Thumbs towards the center, index and middle fingers at the top, pointing towards the top of the mat. Nice space between the fingers as well. And then with an inhale, we're going to tuck the toes, lift up the hips, exhale, press the hips back to your down dog. And hopefully we arrive at somewhat of an upside down V shape, maybe a U shape, and the heels do not need to lower onto the mat, but eventually we'd like to get there. So you can give yourself some time in this first down dog. We're here for about 5 breath cycles. So just make sure you're aligned. So we want maybe the feet at about hips distance apart, hands about shoulder distance apart. We want to make sure that if we bend our elbows, they bend towards the back of the mat, that we're not sticking them out towards the side. And that way we keep the shoulders rotated away from the ears. We do want our head somewhat in between the upper body, the upper shoulder, upper arm section of the body. You can inhale deeply and just lift up to the balls of the feet. Imagine the tail lifting towards the ceiling. And as you exhale, just slowly lower the heels downward. If they meet the mat, great. If they don't, no problem. That's just where you are. And we're giving ourselves a nice stretch to the calves, to the hamstrings, to our arches. And with each deep yogic breath, we may even have the inhales finding our rib cage expanding sideways as well as lengthwise. We want to make sure we have a good support of the palm flat onto the mat. See if you can get the index, that space between the first and second knuckles, down on the mat as well as the entire palm. Help it to distribute the weight that's bearing down currently, not just on the heels, on the wrists. You can give yourself a nice gentle bounce. Keep the bend to the knees if your legs are tight. We're going to inhale, roll the eyes towards the hands, and then exhale. Engage the core and start to walk the hands to the back of the mat, to the fold. And if you're a little too far forward, you can always step back. Feet are about hips distance apart. Fully exhaled, you can drop your tailbone to bring that center right back where it belongs, above the heels. And we're going to inhale, half lift. Lengthen through the legs best that you can. Imagine that internal rotation of the thighs one more time so that the inner arches may be coming down a little more if you tend to roll out at the feet. And then exhale, fold. Fully exhaled here. We're going to inhale with a slow roll up once more if you'd like, or with a straight back, but either way, engage the core, find your center, and coming all the way back up. We're going to reach for the ceiling, lengthening through the legs, pressing through the big pad under the big toes, and exhale, hands down, heart center. And get ready for our second walking meditation. Inhaling, standing weight to the left side of the body, lifting the right foot, exhaling it forward. Bringing in with the inhale that stability to the right side of the body and lifting the right foot for a step forward. It's essentially one full breath cycle per step. If you get a little wobbly, press into the palms, See if you're engaging your core. And we'll meet at the top of the mat, one slow yogic breath step by step. And at the top of the mat, we'll meet in mountain. Fully exhaled here, inhale, press into the palms. Watch the fingertips rise. Separate the palms. Exhale, hinge at the hips and fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. Place the hands at either side of the feet. Step one leg back. Step the other leg back. Maybe a couple steps. Legs at the back of the mat for a full high plank at this point. Inhaling, shoulders over the wrists. And here we stay 3 breath cycles, nice and long. Engage the core. Feel that energy from the heels all the way to the crown of the head, as well as from the shoulders down to the wrists and the heels down to the balls of the feet. Nice and strong. Inhaling deeply, that yogic breath. See if you can hear the ocean at the back of the throat. And then we can inhale, lift the hips. Exhale, press the hips back to your down dog. Readjust the feet if you need. Readjust the distance between the feet and the hands if you need. You can always roll up to the balls of the feet and lower down. See if you can meet the mat, or just at least get an extra little stretch of the calf, the hamstrings. And if you're really feeling good with your down dog, you can think about pivoting in those toes at the balls of the feet as your heels sort of splay outward just slightly. And again, that's that internal rotation of our inner thighs to help lengthen. And here you can also imagine the tailbone lifting up towards the ceiling while the core is engaged. With the next inhale, we'll go ahead and look towards the hands. And with the next exhale, go ahead and walk the hands towards the back of the mat to a fold, stepping back if you're a little too far forward. Fully exhaled into your fold. Inhale, half lift. This time I'm taking the blocks. Exhale, fold. And then inhale, your choice once more, but with an engaged core, we're coming on back. Slow roll up or with a straight back, all the way back up. Exhaling, hands down heart center and coming for our third walking meditation. Inhale, standing way to the left side of the body. Lift the right foot. Exhale it forward. Find that shift in the center towards the ball of the right foot. Inhaling the left foot up. Exhaling it down. Inhale, right foot forward. Exhale it down fully. Inhale the left foot. Exhale it down. And at the top of the mat, we'll meet in our mountain, pressing into our palms, reaching all the way up, separating the palms at the top, and exhale, fold, hinging at the hips, stick the tailbone back if you need, bend the knees if you need, and come on down for a fold. Fully exhaled here. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. Bring the hands to either side of the mat. Step a right foot back and left foot back. Long legs to the back for a high plank. Inhale, shoulders over the wrists. And staying here, looking straight down. 3 breath cycles. Engage the core. Press down into the hands and into the balls of the feet. while you find that length from the heels all the way to the crown of the head. One more deep inhale. One more deep exhale. And then we can lift the hips on the inhale. Exhale, press back to your down dog. Bring the tailbone to that apex of an upside down V. Adjust the feet position if you need. See if there's a little more space, a little more length in your dog. Total of 3 breath cycles here through the nose, each pause between the inhales and the exhales. Then inhale, roll your eyes towards the hands. Exhale, walk the hands back to the fold. Fully exhaled here. Inhale, inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. Then come on up. Bend the knees if you need. Engaging the core. Hands all the way to the top. Exhaling, hands down heart center. And finally down to the side. And it's a great time for a little bit of water. And I didn't bring any, but if you have some, it's a great time. And we'll go ahead and stand. Start our standing balance pose. And we've been doing tree for a bit, but we can also branch out to a chair position. It's going to use a lot of that center that we're looking for in the balance poses like tree. But here we have an option. The first one I'm going to suggest is tree with your feet hips distance apart. When you have them closer together, like the arches are touching each other, it's more challenging that way. So if you have a chair in your repertoire and you're able to do it with feet together, go ahead and do so. But starting off, let's do it with our feet at hips distance apart. We want to make sure our tail, like in most of our standing positions, our tailbone is tucked under. I have a very pronounced, forward position of the hip bones, which makes me stick out the tailbone sometimes. So you just minding yourself to bring up, to open up this space here. The rib cage lifts, you're pressing down into your legs, you're internally rotating those thighs, and that'll hopefully bring the tailbone straight down where it needs to be. And I'm going to turn to the side so you'll see that alignment hopefully just a little better now at this point, where we can press into all points of the legs and the feet, internal rotation of the thighs, so that we have more of that knee over the ankles, hips over the knees, and hopefully if we can get our tailbone tucked under and the pelvic bowl just slightly moved from that anterior tilt of the pelvic bowl, then we can have the shoulders over the hips, and gently tucking in this chin so that our ear is over our shoulder, over our hips, over our knees, over our ankles. And from here, press down into those legs. Make sure they're nice and long without hyperextending the knees, but they're nice and long. You have that gentle internal rotation of the thighs. We'll go ahead and inhale the arms upwards, and they may be at an angle. They don't have to be vertical with the body. You can have them out at a tangent. And all we're going to do is start to bend at the knees and just find that sinking into our heels. That center of gravity should be felt right here from the heels, from the hips down to the heels. So it's just really a matter of bending at the knees. You might just slightly move the pelvic bowl, but we really want the tailbone tucked under. So here, you might have a deep chair. The deeper you go, you're just bending the knees, but that's more taxing. So as our first one, just go where you can, where you feel the hips engaging, the glutes engaging, the thighs engaging. Once you feel that and that the hips are over the heels, we can have our arms here. We can bring the palms to face us a little more so that the pinkies are on the inside, sort of like when we're branching our tree. If our shoulders are really not working for us today, you can put hands down heart center, relax the shoulders, bring them to heart center here, and just let them be a part of your center. It'll give you a little rest in the shoulders. You can also just bring your hands to the hip fold there at the hips that I'm always suggesting we hinge at. Wherever your hand position is, it's just helping you here, either facilitating a more challenging pose with the arms up, or just helping you to find that center a little closer to home, wherever you need to be. And with the next inhale, go ahead and just press through those legs. Engage the glutes, and engage those internal rotation muscles. See, all you do is unfold the knees. We'll go ahead and roll to the tips of our toes, to the balls of the feet, and go ahead and slowly roll back down and lift the toes. And then go ahead and release. Shake out your right foot. Shake out your left foot. And all we're trying to do is just release any unintended muscles that are still in that last pose. And then coming back to our mountain, we'll do another chair. And here you can challenge yourself by bringing the feet together, or you can, if you're still dealing with this version of chair, keep them hips distance apart. Wherever you are, we'll just do the same thing, making sure we have that nice, even balance at the soles of our feet. Even with them together, we want to have perhaps maybe a little more of an internal inward turning of the thighs so that we can get the knees, the thighs, the calves, maybe not the calves, but the ankles and the inner arches to touch or get closer than before. And if you can find that lift up at the sternum, you'll hopefully tuck under the tailbone, slightly engage the glutes. We'll go ahead and inhale the arms up. And then exhale, just bend at the knees until you can find the hip engagement, the glute engagement. And if your legs are together, you're zipping them together like a cobra tail. You should find that contact even more so as you get deeper into your chair. The deeper your chair goes, the more you find the inner contact between the insides of your legs. Give yourself a moment here, taking 3 to 5 breath cycles to find that sweet spot where you can hold it with ease and steadiness. And once you've found that spot, let's do one more roll to the balls of the feet, lifting the heels wherever you can. It might just be you moving, tipping that center of gravity towards the balls of the feet where the heels just may not even lift, but you feel that. Or you might actually have them lifting and holding that for about 2 breath cycles, lifted. If you fall out, that's okay. Come back in as you can. And then exhaling the heels down, bringing the hands together and down to relax at the sides. And we'll go ahead and inhale, lengthen through the legs, and just the legs, tuck under the tailbone, engage the glutes. And if your legs are together, we'll go ahead and separate the legs once more, hips distance apart underneath our legs. And then give yourself a gentle bounce, anything that you feel might help you to release. You can roll to the ball of one foot, slight center shift to the other leg, and give yourself a little roll at the ankle. And then bring that foot down, that leg down, shifting the center to that leg. And then you can hopefully lift the opposite heel and roll at that ankle. Roll in one direction, roll in the other. And hopefully that helps you to release as well. You can always kick it out as well, whatever works for you. And then we'll straighten out any folds in our mat. And coming on down to, yes, it is time
to come on down to the mat. If you're in a chair, you can always just sit there. We're going to come into a base bridge position, which would just be you at the edge of the chair as we usually do. Sits bones at the edge of the chair, knees at a 90-degree angle. But we're coming on down to the mat into our first base bridge position, and however you get there, you can fold, you can just start to bend at the knees and squat if you need. Bringing the knees down, however you get into your bridge. Sometimes just shifting the hips down, and then bringing the feet out towards the front. And I'll go ahead and move this way. Alrighty, so here, coming down one elbow at a time. Now if you're seated in the chair, we're just going to have your feet about hips distance apart, just as we are on the mat here. And we're just going to give ourselves a slight movement, windshield wipe from left to right with the knees. And we're rolling really from one edge of our feet to the other side, like when we were in our warm-up there. And then we'll go ahead and just let the knees come back to center, full soles of the feet flat on the mat. Knees are pointed towards the ceiling, and if you reach down, you should be able to somewhat brush the fingertips against the heel. So I'm a little far forward, so I'm going to scoot just a little closer. There we go. And so here, we're going to start to bring the feet together, bring the outer edges towards each other, and see if you can get the soles of the feet to touch, opening up the knees outward. And you'll do the same if you're seated upright in the chair. Just bring the feet together. Heels can get closer to the chair legs, to your groin area on the floor, but we really just want to get the edge of the feet together. If you can manage to completely bring the soles of the feet together and have the feet resting on the outer edge of the arches, then that's great too. But we're somewhat in a modified laying down butterfly. Now, you might feel good with gravity helping you to open up at the hips. You may want your blocks, if you have them somewhere near you, maybe helping to prop you up at the thighs, because sometimes our body just freezes up if we're not sure of a position, and sometimes having a little support enables our body to feel a little safer and then override that protective reflex. But wherever you are, we're just giving ourselves about that 3 to 5 breath cycle to find this next pose, a modified bridge butterfly, if you will. And breathe from here, 5 to 10 breath cycles. It's that slow yogic breath. Slow inhale through the nose. You'll find the chest lifting. You may find the rib cage spreading horizontally even. That brief pause before that slow exhale. The slow exhale may find just a little more release in the hips, and the ankles, and the toes. Arms should be resting relaxed at the side, maybe about half a foot away from the hips. Palms up. And just a gentle curl of the fingers as they naturally are. As you approach your very last breath cycle, we're going to come out
by helping the knees up with our hands if we need to, but think about just bringing the soles of the feet down, internally rotating the hips inwards so that we can have the entire soles of the feet flat on the mat, and then separating the feet once more, hips distance apart in our base bridge position. Now here, we'll just pivot the heels and the toes out just slightly, maybe one pivot out more, and then allow your knees to knock inward or move toward each other. And if they can rest upon each other, that's great. We're just going to have this internal rotation now, just letting the knees hopefully touch eventually. And once more, giving yourself 3 to 5 breath cycles to find that sweet spot. And then breathing 3 to 5 more breath cycles, nice and long. Breath in with the sound of the ocean. And then that brief pause before you slowly let the air through the nose out with the sound of a sigh, perhaps. Engage the core at the bottom of the exhale. Just a couple more of those. And after that last exhale, we'll go ahead and start to bring the knees back to center, pointing towards the ceiling as you bring in the heels and bring that heel-toe alignment back, making sure the feet are about hips distance apart, somewhat reachable to the fingertips. Then we'll bring our hands out once more and the palms down onto the floor. Go ahead and inhale, and then exhale slowly, windshield wipe to the right. Let your knees just gently fall to the right and roll to the right side of your feet. Give yourself 3 to 5 breaths here. You may find your left knee eventually either hovers as far to the right as possible or maybe even down your right shin calf area. And maybe the right knee, right leg makes it onto the floor, lifting the left buttock off of the mat, or maybe not. But you're just moving towards the right side, getting a tremendous release, hopefully, at the psoas, the piriformis, at that front hip flexor, collection of fascia, tendons, all along that pelvic bowl area. The inner thigh muscles, sartorius, something that sounds like Gemini that I can't remember right now. But all those inner thigh muscles that work with the outer IT band and the tensor fascia lata to stabilize the leg when you're standing. Now we're gently giving them a twist, just allowing them to release. And hopefully you'll find it even in that side of your abdomen. Breathing deeply, those yogic breaths. You might have a stretch to the intercostal muscles in between each rib. In the slower, lower, latter half of our practice here, what we're really focused on is creating the space for the body to release, to stretch, and hopefully give yourself a nice little respite from any active muscles that have not been turned off in recent activity. Sometimes I find that you really can't feel how the body is responding to an activity. Sometimes 2 days later, until 2 days, maybe 3 days later, especially the harder the activity. Now we're going to slowly come back out with an inhale and even assisting our legs back to center. Engage the core and imagine bringing the thighs up with the hands, or just making sure the sacrum, the back of the pelvic bowl, that lower part of your back, comes down onto the mat as your knees then automatically rise with that roll back to center. Give your alignment a double check here. Make sure the spine and the neck are in one nice long line. The heels are back in line with the toes, the feet somewhat reachable once more in our base bridge position. We'll bring the palms out about a foot away from the hips. Lengthen the arms. Inhale deeply, and then exhale. Roll to the left side. Left side of the feet as the feet stay in place, but just roll to the left edge of the feet as the knees roll to that side as well. And then give yourself 3 to 5 breath cycles once more. Just find where you eventually land on the left side. It might be different from the right. You might be more in contact with the left side. You might be just hovering a little more in the air with the help of gravity and the breath, releasing with each exhale. And it's okay if your opposite side shoulder, in this case, since we're on the left side, windshield wiping to the left, it's okay if your right shoulder lifts. The shoulder lifts, then just let it. But with each exhale, it too may eventually find its way back to the mat. Remember those deep, long yogic breaths. After our 3 to 5 breath cycles, to find that sweet spot, we're just breathing 3 to 5 good, deep breaths as if we're on the ocean. And then with that very last exhale, prepare to come out with the inhale. Assist your legs back up if you need to, but engage the core and make sure the sacrum rolls back onto the mat and the knees come back up to center. We'll go ahead and lengthen through the legs. And if you find that your knees are very tented and the calves are not even anywhere near the floor, then give yourself some extra movement here. Maybe you need to stretch the legs, inhaling, pressing out through the heels, flexing the feet, wiggling the toes, maybe tapping out the knees a little bit, and then just let the legs release where they are. If you find you have a really high space at the lower back, maybe bringing a folded blanket or even doubling up your mat, just something to support that lower back if you need, or just maybe an overhead stretch with the extended arms, pointing and flexing the feet might help you to lower that high space at the lower back. But eventually we'll bring our arms down at our side, letting the palms face upward if that feels good to our shoulders. We'll move into Shavasana, allowing ourselves to just feel relaxed and respond to the practice. I'll be sitting up to mind the time. And when you hear the 3 bells, we'll awaken. Bring the mind to the body. Take note of sounds outside the room, the sounds within the room, and finally back to the breath. Notice the belly as you inhale. Notice the belly as you exhale. And bringing the spirit back to the physical vessel. Make any movements in the hands, in the feet. You can roll from side to side. And we'll finally make our way back up to a seated position. Easy seated position, one leg out in front of the other. You can sit in hero. You can sit in a squat on top of blocks. But as we sit here, ending class with our last breath cycle, we'll go ahead and bring our hands to our alternate nostril position, breathing exercise position of Chin Mudra, and allow that hand to rest on your left thigh and the right hand in a Vishnu Mudra, forefinger and middle fingers to the mount of the thumb, or they can rest at the center of your brow line. We're closing the right nostril with the right thumb, left nostril with the ring finger, or if it's with the fingers at the brow line, the ring fingers knuckle. So taking a nice deep breath, close the right nostril, exhale through the left. Engage the core and lift the perineum. Inhale. Feel that outward expansion of the rib cage, upward lifting even of the collarbones at the top of the inhale. Close. Exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Close. Exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Close. Exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Close. Exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Close. Exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Close. Exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Close. Exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Close. Exhale through the left. Last round. Inhale through the left. Close. Exhale through the right. Release the right hand. Release the mudras. Let the breath come back to its natural state. Bring hands to heart center. Thank you so much for joining me here at the ACC Noontime Yoga. Hope you have a wonderful day. Namaste. Thank you. Yeah, my allergies are off the charts, but I'm glad it didn't happen here. So it does. But unfortunately, when I'm going through the allergies, all the sinuses congest, and I can't do down dog. I can't do any of that. So I was really afraid for that, but I'm glad that didn't happen. Thank goodness, yeah. And drinking lots of water, staying hydrated, especially during this season. Wow.